Your blood sugar is already rising before you take a single bite, not from what you ate last night, not from stress you are consciously aware of, from 6 specific things most people do automatically every morning, things that trigger a cortisol surge, a liver glucose dump, and a measurable blood sugar spike before breakfast even exists. Today, we cover all 6 of them. Mistake number 6. Checking your phone within minutes of waking. Your body produces a natural cortisol surge every morning in the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking. This is called the cortisol awakening response, a built-in biological mechanism designed to mobilize energy, sharpen focus, and prepare you for the day. When it peaks cleanly and drops, blood sugar rises briefly and returns to baseline. That is normal. That is healthy. But the moment you pick up your phone, something changes. Your brain immediately begins processing notifications, messages, emails, and social feeds, each one a potential micro-stressor. A 2024 study published in Diabetology and Metabolic Syndrome confirmed that morning cortisol is an independent predictor of blood sugar time in range across the day. Even mild psychological stress in the first minutes after waking amplifies the natural cortisol spike, signaling the liver to release additional stored glucose on top of what the dawn phenomenon already triggered. The result is a compounded glucose dump before you have eaten a single calorie. Your pancreas has to respond immediately. Insulin rises. Before breakfast, you are already in a reactive metabolic state. Delaying phone use by just 30 minutes after waking removes this trigger entirely. But if the phone is your first mistake, mistake number 5 is something most people do in the dark, and it is making the cortisol problem significantly worse. Mistake number 5. Staying indoors in the dark after waking. Your pancreas runs on a circadian clock. Every organ in your body anticipates the timing of the day, preparing insulin secretion, calibrating glucose clearance, and synchronizing its function to external cues. The most powerful cue available is natural morning light entering your eyes within the first 30 minutes of waking. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that the transition from dim to bright light in the early morning induced an immediate elevation of cortisol levels greater than 50%. But crucially, this is the clean, controlled peak your body needs to time the rest of its hormonal rhythm correctly. Without that light signal, the cortisol awakening response becomes dysregulated. It prolongs. Instead of a sharp peak and clean descent, cortisol plateaus, keeping blood sugar elevated longer into the morning. Research tracking over 10,000 participants found that increased morning sunlight exposure significantly improved blood glucose levels, cholesterol, and insulin sensitivity. You do not need direct sun. Overcast daylight outdoors delivers orders of magnitude more photons than indoor lighting. 5 to 10 minutes outside, or by an open window, is the minimum effective dose. And while light sets your hormonal clock, mistake number 4 is something happening in your bathroom every single morning that is adding fuel to the same fire. Mistake number 4. Taking a hot shower immediately after waking. This is the one that surprises people most. Hot water feels calming, but your body does not interpret it as calm. When your skin is exposed to significant heat, your nervous system reads it as a thermal stressor. Adrenaline is released, glucagon rises, cortisol elevates, and your liver responds to all 3 by releasing stored glucose into the bloodstream. A community self-experiment using continuous glucose monitors found that 75% of participants experienced a measurable blood sugar increase during or immediately after a hot shower. A study at the Royal Victoria Infirmary confirmed that during hot water immersion, growth hormone, adrenaline, glucagon, and cortisol all rise simultaneously. You are already in peak cortisol territory from the dawn phenomenon. A hot shower piles a second hormonal stress response on top. The fix is not a cold shower. Cold water causes its own cortisol spike through a shock response. The fix is a warm shower, not hot, taken 30 to 60 minutes after waking rather than immediately. By that point, the cortisol awakening response has already peaked and begun to descend. Warm water at that stage does not produce the same stress signal. But while your shower is raising your blood sugar from the outside, mistake number 3 is raising it from the inside. And it starts the moment you go to sleep the night before. Mistake number 3, exercising hard on an empty stomach. Fasted morning exercise is marketed as a fat-burning protocol. For low-intensity movement, a walk, easy cycling, that is broadly accurate. But for high-intensity fasted training, the metabolic reality is the opposite of what most people expect. When your body is under high physical demand with no glucose coming from food, it reads the situation as an emergency. Cortisol surges, adrenaline fires, your liver dumps stored glycogen into the bloodstream to fuel the effort, blood sugar rises sharply, and for anyone with any degree of insulin resistance, it stays elevated for hours after the session ends. A 2020 study in the Journal of Physiology found that fasted high-intensity exercise produced significantly higher cortisol and post-exercise glucose than the same exercise performed after a small, low-glycemic meal. The difference was not marginal. Post-exercise blood sugar remained elevated substantially longer in the fasted group. Low-intensity fasted movement does not trigger this response. Walking, gentle yoga, easy cycling, these are safe. It is the intensity, not the fasting, that determines whether your liver dumps glucose. If you do high-intensity training in the morning, eat a small protein-based snack beforehand. Not carbohydrates, something that will not spike insulin but will prevent the cortisol emergency signal. And if exercise is raising your blood sugar before you eat, mistake number 2 is concentrating it quietly, invisibly, while you sleep. Mistake number 2. Not drinking water before your coffee. You lose approximately 400 to 500 milliliters of water overnight through breathing and skin evaporation alone, without sweating, without movement, simply by existing through an 8-hour fast. You wake up in a state of mild dehydration every single morning. And dehydration has a direct mechanical effect on blood sugar. When your blood volume is lower than normal, glucose becomes more concentrated in the remaining fluid. A study measuring hydration levels in nearly 4,000 people found that the least hydrated participants were significantly more likely to have elevated fasting blood sugar and higher insulin levels than the most hydrated, independent of diet or exercise. Dehydration does not add glucose. It concentrates the glucose already there, making your readings artificially higher before you have eaten anything. Coffee makes this worse. Caffeine is a diuretic. It actively pulls water from your body. Drinking coffee as your first fluid of the morning accelerates the dehydration you already woke up with, further concentrating your blood glucose before breakfast. The fix is 300 to 400 milliliters of room temperature water before any coffee every morning without exception. That single change addresses morning glucose concentration without altering anything else. But none of these 5 mistakes produces the reading on your glucometer as invisibly as mistake number 1, because most people have no idea it is happening at all. Mistake number 1, weighing yourself on an empty stomach. This is the one nobody talks about. Weighing yourself first thing in the morning is common advice, and for tracking body weight consistently, the timing makes scientific sense. But for blood sugar, the scale is a hidden trigger. And here is the mechanism. When you step on the scale in the morning, you are doing so in a physiologically vulnerable state. Your cortisol is already elevated from the dawn phenomenon. Your blood sugar is already affected by whatever mistakes preceded this moment. And now you are introducing a psychological stressor, the outcome on that screen, into a nervous system that is already primed to react. If the number is higher than expected, disappointment, frustration, or anxiety fires immediately. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis activates. Cortisol rises further. The liver releases more stored glucose in response to the perceived stress. A 2024 study confirmed that morning cortisol is an independent predictor of blood sugar control across the day. meaning any psychological trigger in the first hour of waking has downstream metabolic consequences that last for hours. The number on the scale did not cause you to eat anything, but it raised your blood sugar anyway. The solution is not to stop tracking your weight. It is to weigh yourself after you have eaten, moved, and stabilized, not as the first act of your morning. Separate the measurement from the cortisol window. Give your nervous system 60 to 90 minutes before you introduce a stressor that your liver will respond to with glucose. Every one of these 6 mistakes is fixable before your next breakfast. Pick one and start tomorrow. If this opened your eyes, subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Subscribe, like, comment. Which mistake surprised you most?